Welcome again. Let me just make sure my mic plug in. All right. Welcome again to another installment of theishden or the theishden with Robert and Napoleon. Trying again just to begin some crucial conversations to open up the doorway for us to sometimes looking ourselves that we don't oftentimes do, and just to see, how can we be helped? How can we come into a space where we can become healthy human beings and not be the issues that society continues to wrestle with. We are going to look on a topic this week that is crucial.
Yeah.
Crucial in our context, but not just in our context. If you watch, I think, Jerry Springer, you have that... Maury. Yes. You have that being done as well, where DNA tests are being done to say this is your child, or you are not the father, you are the father. So it is an age-old thing, right? In our society, we were just talking just now, and we say that over 25% of young people, well, not young people, of children, are given to men who are not their father.
Biological father.
Not their biological father. So our topic today is my father is not my father. Now, we will look at it, and again, remember, we are trying to see how can we help? How can we resolve some of these issues? What are the issues, if any, in the first place? Am I any worse off, especially if I find out, than the person who grew up with a father who was actually their father? Is there anything lost in how I translate that episode experience into my everyday life? Can I be a wholesome human being and rest with that? Or it was discovered, my father come to file for me and recognize the DNA test come back and I'm not.
With a different result.
The child. How do we deal with this? Why do we need to deal with this in our context, Naps?
We need to deal with it as a matter of integrity. Just raw, plain and simple. Integrity. I suppose the first case is what we see in the Bible where Hosea has a child.
Yes, Goma, the Goma situation.
Hosea, yeah, the child name, not my child. So clearly, he knew it was not his picnic.
Yeah.
And so as a matter of integrity, should the child know that this person who is fathering you or dadding you is not your biological father? Is that important? We have heard stories where people who discover that their father is not their father have gone to search and gone in search of their biological father, because there's something about wanting to know your roots in that sense.
Where I come from
is important.
Yeah.
So if for no other reason than just the integrity of knowing your antecedents, that's important. So one, the integrity of it. But secondly, what it shows up in the culture about the dynamics of relationships.
Yeah.
So did it matter that you gave the right man the paternity, woman? Or was it just out of convenience that is it really matter?
Yeah.
Or were there some other implications? You're a churchman, you got the girl pregnant, Bobby, and she
they can stay with the outer door and find somebody down the street ministry.
Your ministry can
yes, sir.
Yeah. So there are all of these factors that perhaps are brought to bear in the conversation. So does it matter? It matters at those levels.
Mm-hmm.
But perhaps ultimately, for some, it really don't matter. Um, they just want to know that they have somebody that they can identify with as father.
Yeah.
And consequently, having that person play that role in their lives is perhaps the most significant thing rather than who it actually is for some. You know? So there's that part of the conversation. The other part of the conversation, Bobby, I think is even more difficult. What kind of society are we creating where 25% of us are not sure who we are medically?
Yeah.
Because it has medical implications.
Yep.
Psychologically, it has psychological implications. And all of that. Then, of course, the third component is the curse of being a jacket in our culture. And the curse of being jacket, or the curse of being jacketed, is that part of the culture now that it's the underbelly that comes with its own set of issues that, again, we have to work through. And again, church have to work through these issues as well. Because it happens in church, and sometimes in church for a number of reasons we don't want to deal with it as a reality. So maybe from those three angles we might want to have the conversation at least.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at, and I know one of the more practical things that came to the fore a few years ago in a Gleaner article, and I have a Gleaner article opened here as well that deals with the same issue, was the embassy filing situation.
Yes.
Where many children, many fathers thought that they had, for however long, been
deceived.
Yeah.
Been deceived.
There was one situation I remember where the man was lauded, and for me, I think it was a move of, I can't say integrity, but it was a valiant move, a move of valor on the part of the man, where he actually, after finding out that his daughter was not his, wanted to go through and legally adopt the child, because for him he had raised this child as his own. They had a very good relationship, a very healthy relationship, and he was not going to stop. So he didn't just, become bitter and whatever else and try to take it out on the child. Maybe he and the mother had their own runnings, but he wanted to pursue the case of bringing the child to the States just the same, and he wanted to adopt the child. No, that is valor.
As a separate issue, should the American embassy or whatever embassy
do the paternity test kind of
have that kind of interest? I mean, what is on the age people, shouldn't that be sufficient? Why push the envelope that far? Is another issue. I mean, why don't just run with what is on the birth certificate? Why want to go further to embarrass people, to alienate people, to break up relationships, to break up marriages even, doing the DNA tests in that way? What great purpose is served?
I think,
as a separate issue, eh?
And I do believe, I guess, the whole legality and being sure of it kind of thing. But in Jamaica, we have the problem where a lot of fathers are not even on the birth papers. It's just the mother's name alone.
Absolutely.
I know I found mine, and my father's name is not on mine.
Yeah. I maybe for me it's just providence. I was born in 1967, and I thank God that I see my father's name on it, and I really thank God, because so many people born in that era, just the mother name alone was on the birth certificate. So there are those two paradigms. Just that the fact that the name is not on it, and where the name exists is a wrong name on it. How do people feel that your father is not your father?
Let me just read a couple things. It says, women commit paternity fraud primarily to give the child the best chance in life. We would hope so, not all the while. This means that the most socioeconomically stable father will be the target. I've seen that with a young virgin of mine. Yeah, prominent youth, and it was pinned onto him.
You want to just credit the source, Bobby?
Yeah, this is from the Gleaner article that was published, I think June 2021. Let me just find it there. This thing is the 20th of June 2021. Herbert Gill being the contributor, as you know, he writes on a lot of these issues. So he was just looking at this issue. The first one that came up was him again. This one is not pretty much liked. So he was saying that a lot, and it is true, as I've seen in my own situation, where my brethren was was deceived, and it was for the reason that he was the most likely to provide a stable home for the child. He says, for this reason, the poorest, youngest, and most violent are the least likely to get a jacket, as well as the richest, who will immediately do a DNA test. However, the lower middle class is the target. His another point, jackets can cause immense, and this is where we want to even direct the whole situation, immense domestic violence, including murder-suicide. 11% of attempts of murder-suicides are for this reason. More than a half of jackets feel mistreated by their fathers, in quotation, and many who discover their real father are devastated. However, 62% of jackets acknowledge that they got a more socioeconomically stable father, and 2/3 have better life chances than children from very poor families. So there's definitely that, if we can say the reasoning behind it as to why.
Let's go back to the 11%, Bobby. What is that 11%?
11% of attempted murder suicides.
Right. And
that's high.
Yeah, so it is pretty high.
11 in every 100.
Yeah. It's very, very high. Because of the nature of what has happened. Did you deceive me? Have I been living a lie all this while? Why should I continue to live? And why should you continue to live?
Yeah.
All of those issues are brought to bear, and that very first point we raised as a matter of integrity. So when integrity is sacrificed on the altar of expedience, that's the result. How children feel about themselves, that your father is not your father. Everybody in the community take one look on the beginning and know say the boy they look like Robert, you know.
Big nose, big forehead. Can't miss him.
Can't miss him. Can't see Robert mother right down for the boy long time, but Bobby say I don't feel him. Bobby say him did their church.
Yeah.
So what does a child do? Or the family accept the child and know say a full blood that, you know. But the mother says no. I know feel no picking it. Me know what happened. And the tension that happens between families. Or a child can't associate with siblings because formally it was never admitted that your brothers and sisters over there. And the implications thereof. And again, how these things inform self-worth, identity, value, esteem, and all of those things. And this is why we here at theishden are asking us to just work through that sense of self that we must begin with. Because if those things continue to hurt us, continue to alienate us, continue to make us feel less than, then our country is still going to be under this unnecessary weight. So we're saying then to mothers in this instant, how do you work through and how do you work out making sure that you're not passing off a jacket? Men, how do you insist that you know that the child is yours? Should you stand up and fight and say, no man, am I pick me? Or sure, Make it go on because, as she say, for whatever reason. So because your name never call, but you know say you're a child, it don't matter, or should it matter? And what are the implications of fighting for your youth? Friend of ours, fight for his youth. Not that it wasn't named, given his name, but just that sense of this is my flesh and this is my blood, and a willingness to own that child and give that child everything that pertains to the family. Yeah. Very important.
Yeah. I shared a little bit of your story in church on Sunday morning.
Oh, you did?
I'm not sure if you heard it. And as we talk about this, I can remember our mentor story as well. Being told by his father's family that he was not a Richards.
My jacket.
He had jacket. And the very first time, I mean, just imagine that, the mother said, Richards are your father, and he heard from his father's parents and other siblings, you are not a Richard, you are not a Richard, you are not a Richards. And the very first time he met his father, he saw this man walking through Mandeville and looked upon the man and see himself.
Dead stamp.
And was able to go to him and ask him his name, like say, are you Mr. So-and-so? And the man said, yes. And he said, I am your child.
Yes.
Yeah? So a lot of times, and he can talk about how his father wounds, or not even the father wounds, because he didn't really know his father, but how this thing created in him, this need to go into school and play the class clown, this need to get attention because he was rejected so often. Yeah, so there is that case where, because people just afraid of the jacket stigma, that every picnic were coming at this household, we're going to label them jacket before we claim them.
Yeah.
There was one situation again where I heard of it was the grandmother who saw the two daughters and said, no, these are my grandchildren.
Yes.
The man never took them. And she went for them and raised them as her grandchildren.
And very often, Bobby, that's what happens. A grandmother plays that critical role of rescuing a situation where a coward of a man decides that I don't want anything to do with it. But usually grandmother say, come here. Uno for me picnic.
Yeah.
See what family line upon you there.
Yeah, man. So the toe, the finger.
Know something. Yeah. And begins to nurture those children as part of the family and the family heritage. It's important. It's very, very important. And as well because of where we're coming from as a people.
Yeah.
How slavery and sex in slavery and the stud farm and all of that has damaged us in terms of our thinking, in terms of family. So much so that up to now we really have not settled as a people on what it means to belong to family in that unique sense. We're still trying to find ourselves as a people. This is why we have to talk about it and get the narrative right in terms of who belong to family.
Yeah.
Are the blacks black, or is there something mixed up in there? Honestly, can we look in the family setting and say, yeah, these are the children, and this is the family structure, and therefore this is what represents all of us because there is authenticity here, yeah, and respect it. How then do we help that child who is struggling with identity?
Yeah.
You are not a green, but you bear the green name.
Yeah.
How do we help that child, Bobby?
For me, I think that the church construct has to be again reformed if we can use that terminology. Sometimes in a very real and practical way, the church has to mediate to link that child to their lineage. Especially in a space where the church is respected and the church may be able to play the go-between the pastor may be able to say, all right, let's put this to rest once and for all and see how we can connect this child with his true heritage. Lineage is important. Lineage is important. Where are my roots? What am I anchored to? Whether physically, you made mention of the medical implications. You know, what am I anchored to? What stories have I missed out on that would have helped me to let me understand that, yes, my family in this community was a respected family. And here I am, an outcast, growing up in a inner city community where not necessarily getting things, but the heritage. I can hear about the grandfather who was a deacon in church, or the grandfather who helped to build this train station or that train, and I can get maybe that's why I like masonry.
Right.
You know, but this sense of disconnect, we were never created to live in any form of isolation. And throughout
community,
community
and heritage and lineage.
Yes,
very important.
Is important.
And if we look at it, even Jesus' own narrative, begat, and we see the importance of that, and how that helps in our own sense of wholeness, that we can identify our lineage, we can identify with our roots, and you know, one of the things, Bobby, when I just went to seminary and we were in that psychology class, introduction to psychology, and we were being asked to just plot our family tree, and how many of those people could easily plot their family tree: mother, father, sister, brother, auntie, uncle, and then grandparents, and some even put in the dog, you know what I mean? Some of us couldn't do that, you know, because the family tree was not as
refined.
And some people suffered terribly because
I remember that class.
of the weaknesses in the family tree. The tree was damaged. And you know, the family tree concept comes to us out of an American thing, and many of us in the Caribbean cannot identify with some of those forms and structures. So we don't even know what our family tree look like based on what was shared with us. How that sets us up in terms of our children and what we tell our children about our past. Tough. How do we put on the family tree father but father?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where do you draw the line on the family tree there, so? How do you make it a tree that's authentic, meaningful, relevant, but what do you tell? What is the story you tell your children? You know? And this is where a lot of our people struggle, men and women, in their identity because they have no root.
One of the things I would like first to reflect on, again, we spoke about the early issues, sexuality issues, mother wounding issues. How do if I was a child of a jacket, if I was a jacket, how do I reconcile fatherhood in that space? How can I? And again, we're looking at the situation because you made mention of the will and the ability to, you know, move on the will and learn all these things. But
who is my father?
Yeah.
Who is my father? That is a decision that every child in that space will have to make. Sadly, some have turned their back on their dad in favor of their father. Sadly.
So dad being the
present person,
the one who was present who raised them.
Some have defined him, father, the biological father, as sperm donor. And yet, I determined, for instance, that there's nothing about myself that I wanted to represent me in terms of my father. I want nothing, absolutely nothing, to represent me that anybody say, that is Black's boy.
Yeah.
And yet there's so much of what I am that inhered in him. My sister was visiting my home when we were just going through learning about these things, and my sister, who comes from the paternal home, the structured paternal home, we were there talking, and my family with her, and we're just laughing together, and my sister says, that's exactly how Dad laughs.
Yeah.
Hey Bobby, I was crushed. Because
you couldn't escape it.
No, I had decided that there's nothing about this man that should be a part of me. And then over time, I learned that there was much more than a laughter given to me by him. Many of my characteristics, my mannerisms, and so on, even what I look like physically, that's a part of his, a part of my heritage, a part of my lineage.
Yeah.
And I soon learned to appreciate that whomever else may have fathered me, this was not a sperm donor. And we run that danger of just thinking of father, no matter how unsupportive, no matter how distant, etc. that man has been. He has given us so much to make us who we are in terms of personality, in terms of character, in terms of physical attributes, in terms of psychological makeup and all of that. So it's difficult, very, very difficult to dismiss the notion of the input, of the implant that this man has put in us. And I think there's a way in which we have to redo the conversation of sperm donor, so that whatever anger and rage and toxicity we may feel about this man, that for our own good, we free ourselves from that, from those things, and begin to see ourselves as a part of not just raw material to make us who we are, but this man is an integral part of my personhood, and an integral part of my line, my lineage, and an important part of my heritage. In any event, whatever else I may think of him, ultimately my children are his grandchildren. Whatever else I may think of him. And it's important for us to free ourselves of the resentment and the bitterness and all of those things that come with the notion of just sperm donor. Change the language. But what do we do with the man who has been there? Respect him. Honor him. Continue to call him father if that's a relationship. Make him know that he is important to your own growth and development. And it does not have to be an either or. It doesn't have to be an either or.
It is, because I'm just reflecting on friends of mine who have been in situations like that or near situations like that. More as the child who is found out to be the jacket or the one who was the pawn in the whole situation. And for a few, the sperm donor narrative was very much how it was shouted. I've heard even people within the church circle who have, was raised by a father, maybe like, not necessarily a jacket situation, but very, very early the man came in and married mommy and raised him as his own. But then later on they decided for whatever reason to disclose, this is not your father, your actual father is so and so. And I'm thinking within definitely we can't perpetuate that kind of understanding of life. We can't be the ones as a Christian community who is going to
perpetuate the lie.
You are disconnected from, because we are not. Even if it's just a natural, a natural contribution, we cannot be. I lost out on a relationship. I never knew my maternal grandfather, and he died when I was a grown man.
Right.
Yeah, not because my mother was labeled as a jacket. She was his first child, but for whatever reason, she was treated like the outcast. And then her mother sent her to live with him. The only person she celebrated was her stepmother, who raised her and gave her pretty much everything that she needed. But because of this thing, I've never ever met from I was very young. My mother told me forget about it.
Okay.
Right? I asked when I was young, want to meet grandfather? No, we're not going there. Yeah? And it's this bitterness that sometimes comes in however it plays out. Whether you become bitter to the dad or to the father for whatever reason, it has to be that the narrative from the Christian circles is it sounds cliche, but it's find a space of forgiveness and freedom.
And that's the thing, Bobby, that too many of us and I'm not trying to be judgmental or anything like that. I'm just saying that too many of us as Christians are not appreciating how much we lose out when we carry resentment against a father by calling him sperm donor and all the related nastiness that we pour there.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't know the story as to what really happened.
True. Thinking of our brethren and what the narrative would have been fed to his son.
Absolutely. And sometimes we don't know as well the narrative in terms of just that, what the mother did or did not do. And sometimes these are wonderful people in church who have perpetuated some great hurts and great wrongs.
Yeah.
Is that to say that some of these men didn't do horrible things? Oh yes, they did. But even then, we can't carry bitterness, and we can't carry rage, and we can't carry unforgiveness against these men, because to do that is to devalue ourselves in the process.
Yeah.
You know, so there has to be another conversation about changing the language from sperm donor to my father. My father, whatever he is, however he has turned out, etc., etc. Even if he has not blessed me with presence and presence, he didn't. But there are other things that invariably and inviolably he had given me, character, personality, etc., etc., etc. that I have not lived without. And I am what I am because of what those things he had placed inside of me. So we have to reshape, we have to rethink, and we have to help healing broken individuals and broken communities, especially the church community, because we are very good at pretending, and change that paradigm.
Yeah. As you said something about my father, and I had a difficulty. Grew up with my father there, but I just had a difficulty because of the relationship relating to Abba Father. The Lord's Prayer was really was just it's different from Eternal Father that I could sing and sing for years growing up as an anthem.
Disconnected.
Yeah, but the Abba and the Our Father, the My Father,
personal,
with Yahweh was a difficult thing until I strained just in some way to deal with my father my father and son relationship.
Right.
And that helped me, but I'm glad because the stuff I've been through, I didn't need God as king, I needed God as father.
Right. And many of us,
and it was because of the mending through Courtney as well.
Yeah.
That
and we have to commend Courtney in this space
yes,
for the role that he has played in solidifying in us and for us a proper understanding of God as Father.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what I liked as well, even in his stepping in as spiritual father, he led to the restoration of a lot of relationships.
Absolutely.
With the physical and biological father.
Yes, he did.
And I think even as a church, when we are dealing with these issues, that is how we have to deal with it. We're not stepping in to replace the biological father.
No.
We are stepping in to seek some level of reconciliation where it can be sought.
Absolutely.
With the biological father, because again, we must recognize the link. This, whatever, whether the link was severed or the man abdicated responsibility, whatever it is, there is a link there. And as much as we can as a church community, as a men's ministry, when we are dealing with the men whose father was not really their fathers, and they have now come to the knowledge of that, we should, as best as we can, if we are able to, bring the two together. Right. Restore the heart of the fathers to their sons and the hearts of the sons to their fathers. I think it's crucial.
It is. And then, Bobby, as a marriage officer, there's that section that says father's name. And I hear the question all the time. Does his name have to go on this?
Yeah.
Does his name have to go on this? Can I put my stepfather's name? And it's a legal requirement that your father's name go in this slot that says father's name.
Yeah.
And you can see for some the resignation. All right, if you have to, you have to. You can see anger for some. I don't want it on it, and some just that sense of hurt.
Yeah.
At what has happened in terms of father, but we are seeing in this space that there has to be a new conversation about being made to feel less than because you're a jacket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being made to feel robbed because you're a jacket. Being ridiculed because you're a jacket. And all of those things. Again, the church must be a space in which those communities, conversations are had that go toward healing those wounds.
Yeah.
That go toward having the conversation that says, hey, let's see how we can help. And that go towards transforming a space that God intended to be a safe space. Sin has done much to damage us.
Yeah.
The price is so high, but the cross of Jesus has done much to bring restoration.
Yep. Yeah.
And transformation.
Yeah. It is definitely that we are having the thinking conversation, but we are not going to leave out the loving the cross with our minds.
Absolutely.
As well, because it is something we are called to do. Gale said in his article that he commended the 67% of men who found out and lived it through, continued to father the child, or to be the dad for the child that was not his.
Right.
And if you are in that space, and because sometimes your brethren them know and them laugh at you, because it's a big thing as well.
It is, yeah.
The man who get the jacket is the ridicule of his community.
Right.
But there's commendation in that.
Yeah.
There's commendation in that.
And we want to take this space to commend you for staying.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to the females, you had made a point about integrity. Let's just close on that point to the females who may even be thinking about it, or who are currently in that space. A lot might be at stake.
A lot usually is.
Yeah.
A lot usually is. But we want to say, do the right thing. Not now for yourself, but for the child.
Yeah.
In the moment, it's a difficult, tough decision for many. But think 10 years down the road and 20 years down the road. Think of what seed you have sown for that child and its implications. When the questions begin to come up, when you are going to be viewed in a particular light because you did not speak truthfully in the moment when it was required, In the moment, again, we don't know your issues. We appreciate that these can be hard issues to work through and try to answer in the moment. But we're asking our sisters just to consider down the road, to consider a child who is going to be impacted because something was recorded that's not true.
Yeah.
Not only in terms of travel, but just a sense of lineage, heritage, history, and the future. Very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's our take. And, you know, it's really something that we are encouraging people to, again, open the conversation. We are here in this space. You know, if you need assistance, if we can't give it to you on the fly, we can direct you to persons who can give it to you.
Absolutely.
We have varying connections, myself being a recently minted, not newly minted, Justice of the Peace. There are many persons who, in my space that has been open to me through that office, who work in these different governmental institutions or whatever it is, who can help us to get this information out there. And I hear a lot of pharmacists in Jamaica are, and you know, let me leave that information because I don't want nobody go, yeah. But remember, like, share, and subscribe to the theishden channel. Spread the word, and we are looking forward to the invites to come into your space and to have these conversations. We believe in this. That's why we, after, again, my apology for 18 months or thereabout, we believe that this is a platform that can be used for good and to help. I had an idea for Father's Day, didn't come to fruition, but I want to big up the men out there, not Christian men, but men who I can see on social media playing the father and the dad role in one. Sasko, because I grew up with the narrative of an elephant man with 30 odd picnic and whatever situation and these guys. But Agent Sasko, who seem to have a stable life, Romain Virgo and Wayne Marshall, I like what they are using this space for, to spread the positivity of fathering your children. And we just want to give them that shout out. If you know them, they may not never ever watch it, but if you know them, just let them know it's theishden and give them a shout out.
Yeah.
Until next time, this is your boy T-Bor signing out alongside his partner in righteousness, Napoleon. Peace and blessings.